Hello everyone, my name is Shark, and for this video I thought we'd do a cooking video, a little different from my normal content, but I thought it would be fun. For today's dish, I thought we would do a Japanese style curry. Start with 5 red or gold slash yellow potatoes, if that's what you like to call them. Don't use russet potatoes though, because they do have like a leathery, gritty texture when cooked like this. I like red potatoes just because I like the texture and flavor of them a little more than the yellow potatoes, but they're still good. And if you like the yellow potatoes, you can use the yellow potatoes. Alright, once you have your potatoes all peeled, soak them in a bowl for I'd say 30 minutes. It's basically just called a starch bath to get all the excess starch off, or you can just wash it, but doing this you get more of that starch off. Now with all our potatoes peeled and soaking, we can move on to the next vegetable, which would be carrots. Who doesn't love carrots? If you don't like carrots, then you are a child. Carrots are like the candy of the vegetable world. They taste great and they're really good for you. So we're gonna start by peeling the carrots. You don't have to peel the carrots. If you don't peel the carrots, you actually get more structural integrity, which means the carrots won't fall apart easier, but they will also be a little more chewy. But I'm fine with this. This is gonna be a nice slow cook for this curry. So by peeling the carrots, you don't get that rubbery or gritty texture and this great flavor and nice softness of cooked carrots. Now cut the ends off of all the carrots, the back and the front, but on the front, just do the smallest bit, just so you don't get the root. I would cut the carrots at a diagonal angle, not straight down, to give it more structural integrity, and I don't know the science behind it, but it also gives it more flavor. Again, I don't know the science, I don't even know if it's true, that's what I've heard, that's what I've read, so that's what I'm doing. Once you cut all your carrots, put them in a bowl and wash them, because there will be a lot of extra dirt and dust from the skin of it. Here I have some beef that I cut into cubes, which has been soaking overnight. It has been soaking in bone broth. You can use any kind of protein though, or tofu if you want to use tofu. It has also been marinating with some seasonings in the bone broth. I put salt, pepper, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, soy sauce, and red wine vinegar. Make sure when you cut your meat to take the hard fat out. This is the fat that does not become tender. This is the stuff that becomes really hard and chewy. I'm actually going to keep this in the curry for flavor, but when it's done cooking, I'll take it out. Now you want to put your beef into a separate bowl, separating the broth from the meat. If you're wondering what broth I am using bone broth from cows. If bone broth is a little too expensive for you, you can just use regular beef broth. Something I recommend doing if you have a piece that has a lot of fat but too small to cut is wrap in a paper towel, dry it up, and just try and rip the fat off. Most of the time, fat gets ripped from the meat pretty easily. Now that you have separated the liquid from the meat, keep the meat juice in the broth. Don't toss it out. Don't put the fat in if you don't want to. I'm going to put it in because I like the extra flavor. Now we are going to sear every side of all the meat. You want your meat blue, not the color blue. It's basically more rare than rare. So you want it basically raw on the inside and the outside cooked, because if you don't sear it, there's a high chance it won't cook properly in the stew and it can become chewy and not as tender. Now grab a pot that is an appropriate size for how much you're doing, dump the oil and fat that you're cooking with in the pot. If you don't, that's just losing flavor, but you don't have to. And then dump all of your meat that you just cooked into the pot. Now dump the broth that you were using to marinate the meat into the pot. At this point in time, you also want to dump in your carrots. Cook those on a medium heat for about half an hour. While that warms up, cut your potatoes. Cut them in half and then cut each half into another half and each of those halves into another half. So half a potato should give you 8 pieces. Once you have cut all your potatoes, it's time to throw them in the pot. While they're cooking, let's get started on the onion. I would recommend a white onion as they are the most sweet, and we are going to cook this onion. But in this video, I actually forgot to cook the onion. in a pan, so I just threw it in the pot. It turned out exactly the same, so I don't think you need to cook them, but you should cook them because it might make a difference. But I forgot, so I didn't. When you do cut the onion, make sure to cut them into strips, not diced, because you want bigger chunks of onion. Also, mince some garlic. A whole garlic would be good for a big pot. Only reason I didn't is because I saw little bits of mold on it, and if you know anything about mold, the part you see is just the tip of the iceberg. The whole thing is infested with mold, so I just threw it out, and I just used extra garlic powder. Now what you want to do is zest an apple. I have never said that in my life. That sounds very weird. Basically, just peel the skin off the apple, or what I'm going to do is just chop the apple into bits, and then zest not the skin, just the rest of it, like the inside, not the core obviously. I'm using a Honeycrisp apple because I think they are the best apple and they're the sweetest for this curry. Once you have everything in the pot, make sure the liquid level is slightly above everything. If little things are poking out, it's fine. So I'm putting extra bone broth, and I didn't actually have enough, so I did put some water. It's fine, it's mostly water anyway, but if you use broth, you will get more flavor. But you could just use water, you don't have to use broth at all, but broth does give you more flavor, so I do think it is worth it. Now we are going to season the broth with the same seasoning that we seasoned the meat with overnight, which is salt, pepper, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, and instead of more red wine vinegar, I'm actually going to put rice vinegar for more acidity. I also added some cumin and some ground mustard into the pot also, with a dash of cinnamon, not too much. I also put less salt than I wanted to because I'm going to add soy sauce, because soy sauce is salty obviously, but it also has a different flavor that is unique to soy sauce. I also added honey, but I'm also adding this hot honey because I do want a little kick in it. I would make this curry very spicy since I love spice, but no one in my house really likes spice besides me, so I'm just putting a little spicy honey. And by a little spicy honey, I mean just a little, like a tiny bit was pretty hot. There's also regular honey in there to keep the temperature low, as in spice level, not heat. And I'll be adding some sesame oil because I think sesame oil has a really good flavor in curry. And for some more acidity, I'm just going to add some tomato paste. I know this dish looks really acidic, but on how big this pot is, it really isn't too acidic, and I do think it needs more acidity. Then stir it and put it on a level 4 heat for about 4 hours, depends on your heat level. And I would also add some dark chocolate, the darkest chocolate you can find, because you do want it a little sweet but not too sweet, but don't go with like pure chocolate, which will be super bitter. Now cover it up and we wait. At this point in time, it has been 4 hours. If I remember right, I'm editing this video like a week after I made this because I just didn't have time. But this is the point where if you put extra fat you do not intend to eat, or anything you put in that you do not intend to eat, take it out. A good way to tell if your curry is done is take a potato and carrot, stick a skewer, toothpick, or chopstick in it. If it can pierce it really easily, it is done. If it has a tough time piercing it, or it has any resistance, leave it in. Once it's done, put in your curry mix. This is my favorite. This is what the curry mix looks like when you open it. It looks like chocolate. Trust me, it's not chocolate. Do not eat it like this. You will have a bad time. But anyway, for the size pot I'm using, put in a whole block, which is 4 pieces. It comes with 2 blocks. Put them all in. A good way to mix it is put a little of the curry into a ladle and then start to mix it with it in the ladle. My ladle actually broke here, which is really funny, and I had to throw it away, so I just decided to throw the curry back into the pot and just let it do it by itself. And now you get to watch me struggle to take the ladle out of the curry with chopsticks. Okay, and if you're wondering why it got brighter all of a sudden, it's because my kitchen has a sunroof, so the sun is way brighter right now because clouds moved and yada yada yada. Anyway, our curry is done, but I do want my liquid to be thicker, so what I am doing is just taking a cup, putting some water and some cornstarch, stirring it separately. Don't put the cornstarch directly in the pot because then the cornstarch will just clump up and you just get clumps of cornstarch. Mix it in a separate container and then slowly pour it into the pot to give it a thicker consistency. Alright, now take your pot off the heat and we're going to make rice. We're going to use a rice cooker. I'll explain how to use a pot in a second, but it's super simple. First, take rice, measure the same amount of rice with the same amount of water. I'm pretty sure everyone knows how to make rice, but growing up, I was told you have to put more water than rice or it wouldn't be right. But a friend back in the Philippines, she told me that no, just do the same amount of water, same amount of rice. And I've done that ever since, and you just get perfect rice every time. Make sure to wash your rice. You don't want extra starchy rice. That is gross, that is disgusting. Make sure to wash your rice. Okay, now I'll tell you how to make rice in a pot. Super simple. Wash your rice, then throw your rice in the pot. Same amount of water as rice also in the pot. Let it boil on about a medium-high heat and just constantly stir it. Like, not constantly, but like come back every minute or so, do a little stir, wait a minute or so, do another little stir, and then it should be done. It's really easy. Alright, now that the rice is done, the curry should be cooled down enough for you to plate it. So here goes some rice. And now let's put down some of the delicious curry. And there you have it, Japanese style curry. I've actually never had any other curry besides the one I've made, so I don't know if this is right, but it tasted so good. When I ate it, I burnt my mouth, but I couldn't stop eating it. That's not a joke. I hope you guys enjoyed.